ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaste to everyone. Welcome to the weekend retreat, online retreat. And we have had many of those in the last 2 years. And I think, in a way, it has helped people to go within a bit more easily than needing to travel and all this. So, in a way, it has been good. And so this time, this retreat is the topic that I will be taking is a section, a small section in the Brhadaranyaka Upanishad, which is called Antaryami-Brahmana. What kind of Brahmana is that? How many kinds of Brahmanas are there, and what is this Antaryami Brahmana? Well, it's not Brahmana as in Brahmana, Kshatriya, that kind of a division, societal division. But Brahmana here means subsection. So the subsection here, the sub chapters are called Brahmanas, and they all have names based on the primary, either the primary character who is holding forth in that particular subsection. Like Maitreyi Brahmana, with where Maitreyi has a lot to say. Gargi Brahmana, where Gargi preponderates with all her questions, asking sage Yagyavalkya, what is this, what is that? She's testing him. And so that portion is called Gargi Brahmana. And then there is one sage called Kahola who plays a big role in this whole dialogue and everything, in these kinds of dialogues between sages. And that sage is called Kahola. And so this is Kahola Brahmana, like this. And then, so by that reckoning, Antaryami Brahmana must be based on a sage called Antaryami. Wrong. So sometimes it is based on the characters, sometimes it is based on the topic. And so here now, this particular Brahmana, this particular subsection is based on the topic that preponderates. And that topic is called Antaryami Brahmana. And what is this Antaryami? So Antar means within. And the word Yamin means the one who is the Niyanta, the one who is the regulator, the ruler, and who rules from within. Antastishtan Yamayati. That is the full form of Antaryami. When you break up that compound Antaryami, what you get is Antastishtan, remaining within. Tishtan, remaining. Antaha, within. Yamayati. Yamayati means the one who regulates, the one who is the overlord of everything. But what kind of an overlord? A kind of an inner lord who is the overlord, who is Ishvara. And this Ishvara, seen from the standpoint of that which is the core of each and everything, starting with the five elements and everything in this manifest Jagat, and then the one's own body, mind, sense complex. So this is the topic I will be taking, and our Swami Muktatmananda, who is co-teaching the course with me, will be taking the first verse from the Sadhana Panchaka, which is a quintad, which is talking about how, what kind of a life must one lead in order to be able to understand Ishvara as the regulator, as the indweller of all names and forms, starting with one's own body mind sense complex. So, together, these two topics comprise the entire retreat. And of course, on Sunday, we will be having the Bhagavad Gita class also. All that is given in the schedule. You can look at that. And then, yeah, so this is how it will proceed. And then the a few tips which Sahadev was, broadcasting, sharing the screen in the beginning to make the most out of the retreat is to attend, as many sessions as possible. Ideally all the sessions, but if that's not a possibility, as many sessions as possible, to be able to follow, what is the connection between what went before and what went after. And then in a retreat, what happens sometimes is that there is a very interesting synergy which is beyond the scope of the human mind. To understand how this happens or why this happens is something which is so which is really quite a miracle, very miraculous, because we find that many times, if there are two teachers teaching, and it happens to me all the time, it happens, so much that it's unsurprising at this point. So if there are two teachers teaching, and it could seem like completely different topics, but then so many times, Swami Muktatmananda gets told that, oh, Swamini ji was also teaching this, and then I get told Swamiji was also teaching this, saying the same thing. So, but and then one would think that he and I have discussed this. No, hardly at all, you know and we haven't discussed this, but this is how the knowledge coalesces, especially in the heart, in the mind it sits, and there are connections made. And that is the beauty of study, this kind of a study, where one takes the time to get to know oneself, free of all distractions. And so therefore, the few tips to be able to follow the topic, and to be able to attend the classes, and then also to and the rest of the day also to just be in that, to marinate in that vidya, to be able to allow oneself to just soak up that knowledge, and to be able to do that is a great blessing. And so with these words we can start, and see where this takes us today. So, Antaryami, Antastishtan Yamayati. And Adi Shankara also gives a similar definition. We'll see that in time. And so, what makes this Brahmana, or this subsection, very what's the word for it? Very useful for study, if we ask. It's very tremendous. First of all, the first thing I would like to say about this is that this section is extremely suitable for a winter retreat such as this. And why? Because winter is an invitation to go within. Why is it an invitation to go within? Because nothing is happening outside. Not much is happening. The trees have shed their leaves in most parts. And then it is cold. It might be raining some places. It might be cold in other places. And so and if we look at the lifestyle of animals, many of the animals, bears and so on, go into a nirvikalpa samadhi in the only way that they can. They just sleep through it, in a way. Not much activity is there. And it is appropriate. It's a time of shedding. And we see this in nature, because nature is full of gurus. All kinds of teachers are in nature. You don't have to go very far to understand this and to enjoy this. So the trees shed, and therefore we study the Upanishad, okay, which makes one shed all the notions that do not belong. that have outlived their purpose. All notions regarding oneself, regarding who one thinks one is. I am an idiot. Nobody loves me. When am I going to gain this knowledge? Nobody validates me. Nobody approves of me. I don't matter. I never have mattered. These are the messages that have been internalized as a result of the prasada, the the sad gift of what? Of the grand matriarch, Atma Avidya. Avidya means what is Avidya? Ignorance. Atma, self. So because of this self ignorance, what is happening is that there is a lot of wrong notions about the I, about others around the self, about the whole. So this is, so regarding oneself, one is mistaken. It's the mistaken self. It's the mistaken notion of the self that conducts business. It is the one that dresses up. Oh, the mistaken notion dresses up. Yeah. That's why it needs so much makeup. That's why it needs to fix itself up. It's the mistaken notion of the self that I'm not enough, I'm not okay. It's the mistaken notion of the self that eats. It's the mistaken notion of the self that takes itself to work. It's the mistaken notion of the self that enters into all transactions. It's the notion of the self that comes back from work, and etc., etc. That's why the whole day is lived in hurried, it's all rushed in hurried overtones, and in ways in which it is so difficult to come to terms with. The whole day is a subjective projection of all the things that one has internalized as a legacy because of Atma Ajnanam. Plus socialization, both of those are important. Atma Ajnanam is there and it expresses itself certain ways because one has been socialized. Oh, yes, this is exactly what one has to do. Yes, this situation warrants crying, and you must cry because, and if you're not crying, something is wrong with you. And this is what one is told if one doesn't feel like crying. And this is what happened to Pujya Swamiji when he was 8 years old. The father suddenly passed away. And what was the young boy doing? The young boy was out in the street in front of the house playing some kind of a little game with some friends. And the relatives said, "What is wrong with this boy? Don't you know?" And one of the elders approached him. "Don't you know that your father has just passed away? And here you are in the street?" And then, Swamiji, baby Swamiji said at that time, "Well, if let's say I return and I'm not engaging in this game, will it bring him back to life?" This was his answer. And so, like this, these, very difficult, other than for luminaries like Pujya Swamiji to be able to resist this kind of socialization, that there are expected behaviors for each and every situation, no matter how dysfunctional, that one has to keep on engaging in. This is a learned behavior, and that learned behavior is socially validated. You get a tick mark for for being dysfunctional. You get validated for being dysfunctional. I mean, go figure. Very, very interesting. The whole thing is so interesting. And so and the whole life is therefore lived in violent metaphors. One cannot finish doing one task only to do something else, and then rush to something else, because everything is so dissatisfying. From start to finish, one is unable to connect with oneself, with others, with the whole world and things in the world. What to talk about Bhagavan Ishvara? That is a far, far cry. One is unable to connect even with oneself and with the world that confronts us. And so therefore what? Therefore this is this is why we need the Upanishad, the Upanishad which makes one shed these notions. Oh, but I have so many notions. And what will one small Brahmana do? I mean, as though it's going to shed everything. Well, because they all those, just like, the leaves of the tree in the winter, they all shed. No matter how thick the foliage, it just starts to drop, drop, drop. Here too, each thing, each notion builds on another notion and then is being upheld by yet another notion, and in turn is giving its hand to hold up one more notion. It's like a pack of dominoes. And one little notion is the main notion is taken away, that I am unworthy. This notion is taken away, and all the notions which are leaning on that notion go away. Oh, so I was leaning on these notions. Where, what will I lean on? You will lean on Brahman. That's why it is called Brahmalinaha. The one who leans on Brahman. In sometimes there is a synergy, there is a direct translation without needing to translate in English and Sanskrit. And I just love those, I love those moments where you don't even need to translate. Brahmalina means the one who leans totally on Brahman and not on anything else. And what is this Brahman? You. Oh, but I don't like myself. It's not the you that you think you are, it's the you that is waiting to be discovered. It is the you that for which you have a yearning in your heart. There is definitely a yearning. The yearning is there in your heart, and you're waiting to discover this you. The yearning is there. You want to understand it. You want to do this. But then what? The yearning is there, but then the means seem to be elusive. How do I discover myself? Do I stand in front of the mirror? Of course, I do not see what I like, but is that where I make a beginning? Perhaps you make a beginning right there. You stand in front of the mirror, and then what happens? Nothing happens. And then you say, okay, that's not what I was looking for. So perhaps I should know my mind. Perhaps I should know my likes and dislikes. And there is some truth to it, because all this is part of the personality, and that has to be reckoned with before we talk about this knowledge. And that's okay. But that's not the ultimate. So perhaps I am as good as my preferences, and I am as good as my prejudices and what I do not like. And then, then we have that. Then after that we have, then we go further. No, perhaps I should know my thinking. Perhaps I'm not just a bundle of feelings. Perhaps I am my mind. Perhaps I am the ahankara, the ego that holds up, the body mind sense complex, that owns it up. Perhaps I'm that. Well, all these are just dead ends, because the I that I seek is not an object. And seeking definitely is naturally connected to objects. When we talk of seeking, it is something you can objectify, that one seeks. One does not seek something that one does not, one cannot objectify. The whole idea is preposterous. How can you seek something that doesn't, it's as good as non-existent if it cannot be objectified? This is our general thinking. It must be non-existent, because if it is there, then I should be able to see it. This is, sight, or hear it. Certain things are not seen, but they are heard. When certain things are neither heard nor seen, but you can pick up the smell, like a blooming flower. You can pick up the smell. And there are so many different, and you can identify the smell immediately. So many different kind of flowers, the heady scent of the jasmine, the very fine scent of the hyacinth, the scent of the lotus, the lily, the scent of the rose. All these can be identified just by a pair of nostrils having what are called olfactory nerves. You can just so easily do that. And so that you can objectify that. And then certain things can be touched. This is velvet. This is something rough like a stone surface. Oh, this feels like wood. You can identify all this. So these form the primary ways in which we seek things in the world. We seek it through so many ways of knowing. And these ways of knowing in the Sanskrit language have been called pramanani. Pramanani, pramanam. Ma means knowledge. The pra is put because it's a special knowledge. It's a special knowledge that is intimately gained by the operation of the sense organs in order to seek, identify, get, catch the sense objects. So there is a connection between the sense organs and the sense objects. So the sense organs are there, the eyes are there, the ears are there, the tongue is there, the nose is there, sense of touch is there. What is the use if it is there? Well, it's not of much use if it is just there, but it has the capacity to contact the sense objects. And when the sense objects are contacted, then that contact produces the knowledge of those objects. The sense organs, in connection to the sense objects, brings up the whole knowledge of the universe. The whole universe is now dancing in my hands. So this is why, because I'm able to objectify it. This is the dance of Nataraja. Everything is going round and round, and as long as it's going round and round, the one that is still is forgotten. Namely, the person who is doing the objectification. What is the nature of that person? This is not being looked into. And that is where the truth of the I lies. Not in the engagement or the concept of that engagement with the objects, which produces certain discrete knowledges, discrete bodies of knowledge in the universe. We have all kinds of knowledges, branches of knowledge, botany, biology, and then gets more and more complex, chemistry, and then biochemistry and microbiology and this and that, and medicine, and astronomy, physics, astrophysics. All this is born of pramana. Pramana means the means the ways of knowing. So these five which we have been discussing are pratyaksha, are called pratyaksha, direct perception. So pramana means knowing. Pra, special, it's a upasarga, it's a prefix that means prakarshena, specially so, specifically so. And then ma means knowledge, and anam, this particular suffix anam, makes it into a noun, into kind of an abstract noun, ways of knowing, pramana. So these five we have at hand, contacting the universe through these means of knowledge. Plus there are some indirect means of knowledge which are also there and which we operate. One of them is called Anumana Inference. Here also, Anumana has a specific meaning, one step inference. inference that is simple inference. And the classic example that is given is what? Devadatta. And what does Devadatta do? Devadatta does not eat during the day. Oh, and he's watched very closely. He doesn't even look at food. And after 1 month, he's put on the scales. He's put on the weighing machine, and then the weighing machine shows him not to have lost even an ounce. So these two facts, we have two facts here. Factoid number one, what is that? Devadatta does not eat during the day. Fact number two, Devadatta has not lost weight. And therefore, what is the knowledge that is produced? Huh? What is Devadatta doing? Eating
It in
at
the night.
Eating at night.
Eating at night, you're absolutely correct. Eating at night. Devadatta is a nocturnal fellow. This much is clear. He's getting all his calories at night, and during maybe it is a new kind of a diet. We have so many things. We have keto, and before that some Atkins, and then now this, what is this called? Intermittent fasting. So maybe he's in on this intermittent fasting diet. Who knows? Weird fellow, but nonetheless okay. But this is the anumana, the inference which is based on this is a single step inference. Then we have, little more complex inferences, which is the basis for all our scientific discoveries. Every scientific discovery, etc., is because of this one step, more than one step inference. Then the technical name for that is arthapatti. Anyatha upapattau, meaning it is not possible. Any other way is not possible. Therefore, arthapatti. Anumiyate iti anumanah. So anumana is that which is like a inference, that which is inferred, and arthapatti means complex inferences. If they do this all on the mice, so many things, and they'll say that if the mice are fed this much whatever, some medicine which they are discovering, and then all the tumors are gone. So how did you find mice with so many tumors? How did you find all these mice? No, 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 don't get into all that. We first injected something in the mice which gave them tumors, and then we gave them the medicine in a certain quantity which eliminated the tumors. And therefore, what is our conjecture? If it works on the mouse, it will work on the human being also. Only one problem, we have to calibrate the dosage. That we don't know yet. The research is ongoing. So this is a classic example of arthapatti, which is complex inferences. And this is what is very interesting, because poor mice, what a prarabdha to be that kind of a mouse, to be like a guinea mouse, a guinea pig for humanity. And so this is this is arthapatti. This is one more way of knowing which we have, which we operate in the universe, with which we get into contact with all the things in the universe, and then which produces knowledge about those things in which we are in contact with, which we want to pursue, meaning those things are favorable, which we want to pursue, or they are unfavorable, which is again, information is power, knowledge is power. So when we have the power, we know how to better run away from them or keep them at bay. So this is arthapatti. Then we have one more. And what is that? We have arthapatti, and then we have upama. Not what you have for breakfast, that is upma, but this is upama. Upama means a certain kind of an inference. It is in inference based on a simile, and so that is upama. It is based on a simile. And what is this simile? Certain things, you haven't seen in the world, but somebody else has seen them. And if they describe to you that this is what it looks like, this is what something looks like, and it is kind of a cross. There is an animal which is which looks like a horse but is smaller than a horse, and it makes a funny sound. And then so you say, oh, zebra or donkey, something like that. Let's say somebody has never seen a donkey or never seen a zebra, but then you say, it is like a donkey but with stripes. So when you go to Africa, then you see this. And then what happens? You say, oh, yeah, yeah, this must be zebra, a donkey with stripes. And they, in Palestine Zoo, this is, I heard this, I don't know if it is, I heard this a few years back. They did not want to spend money to bring zebras in the zoo, so they caught hold of a pair of donkeys, and then they painted them white and black, and then put them on display. And then few weeks later, suddenly it rained and then the game was up. Okay. And then the zebras got demoted to donkeys, and everybody was horrified that this is what they had done. So it could be an urban legend, I'm not sure, but I read it somewhere. And so this is again, upama works like that. You have a known entity, and then you have an unknown entity, and you use the attributes of the known entity in order to know the unknown entity. Upama. So far we have covered the five sense organs, direct perception, and two kinds of inferences, Anumana Arthapatti. Then we have covered Upama. There is one more means of knowledge, one more way of knowing. It is the cognizance of absence. How do you understand that? How do you understand that something does not exist in a particular place at a particular time? That is what is called anupalabdhi, cognizance of absence. And so the cognizance of absence, it cannot be absolute. It's just impossible for absence to be absolute. Why? Because the one that says absence is absolute is absolutely present. How are you going to cut that person out? And that conscious entity who says that there is absolute absence, it can never be denied, can never be negated, because for it is you, it is the truth of you. And so it can never be denied, it can never be negated, it is very much there, it is you. And so therefore what? So therefore this is what we are talking about here. We are talking about this, the cognizance of absence, which is relative, which cannot be absolute, because you cannot discount the you cannot discount the cognizer, you cannot eliminate the cognizer, you cannot eliminate the conscious entity that is declaring that absence is absolute, there is no presence at all. What about that presence which is cognizing the absence? Which is very, very beautiful. We are now in ontological territory. Very fantastic to think about this. So, who is the one who is denying the one's own presence? How is that possible? And the Veda is very clear about this. Asanne vasabhavati asad brahmeti veda chet asti brahmeti chet veda santamenantato viduriti. Very beautiful. Asat eva sabhavati. The person who says that the truth of this whole world is nothing, is absence. There is no such thing called Brahman. There is no such thing that is absolute. And everything, and the whole world is absent. There is no presence. There is only absence. The one who says, the Upanishad says, is a rank form of self denial. The rankest form of self denial, because what else is it? It is it is only by denying oneself that one can say that there is absence absolute. So therefore absence is accepted, but it is relative. So when we talk of the cognizance of absence, two questions have to be answered. What is absent? A. And B. Where is it absent? Like, there is no pot in the palm of my hand. Ghataha nasti. Where? Karatale. So what nasti? What is not there? Ghataha nasti. There is no pot. Where is it not there? Karatale. In the palm of my hand. Then you can say, okay, but how is this? How is this? How does this cognition take place? How does the cognition of absence take place? People say, I don't see the pot. Yeah, but what do you mean you don't see the pot? You don't see the pot that is there occurring in your head as a pot thought when I say the word pot. Something happens. There is a cognition that takes place, and that cognition searches for a home to find that pot. Where is this pot located? And that pot not being there is immediately seen as what? As absent. What is absent and where is it absent? So these, my dear friends, are the sum total of the means of knowledge that we have at our fingertips, at our behest, to know things in the universe. However, if we look at them deeply, we find that none of them, not a single one of them, is useful for knowing the self. You can't see the self. Mundakopanishad says, Yattad adreksham. Oh, but I'm standing in front of the mirror. Yes, you see what you can objectify. You see the body. And if you can read people's mind, you see the mind. Or you can read your own mind, hopefully, and you know the thoughts and you see the mind. You objectify the mind. You objectify the sense organs. But you cannot objectify the one who is doing all the objectifications, cannot be objectified. The objectifier cannot be objectified. The seer cannot be seen. The hearer cannot be heard. And the one who picks up the smells does not have a smell, whatever is not is not able to be picked up by another pair of olfactory nerves. The one who tastes everything cannot be tasted, and the one finally who holds everything, who touches everything, who feels everything, cannot be either touched or felt, cannot be grasped with the sense organs by the organs of action. And this is the I that I know is to be understood. And how does one know that? Because the I can never be denied. The I is what we call evident. Evident to whom? Evident to you. And who is this I? Atma, the self. Oh, so the I is self evident? Yes. And the same word is used in so many ways: self evident, self effulgent, self illumining. This is what is meant. And if that is too abstract, just answer one question which I ask all the time. So, what is that question? Are you here? Are you here? What is the answer to this question? Are you here? What will you say? You can't say anything other than yes. If you say no, that is just like what we said earlier. It's a lie. It's like a child hiding somewhere. Don't look behind the door, I'm not there. That's exactly how it is. So are you here? Yes. Yes, I am. And this undeniable yes, which is a universal yes, because you can ask the same question in Mandarin language after going to China. Are you here? Yes. And you can go to Russia also and say, are you here? Stay right here. Don't go to Ukraine. You can tell them that. Are you here? Yes. Yes, I'm here, in their language. Then you go somewhere in some country in Africa and ask them the same thing. Are you here? Do you exist? In other words, it's a question which is, if you rephrase it, it's a question, do you exist? Yes, will be the overwhelming and universal answer. Why? Because that existence is self evident and is universally sensed. One's presence is sensed. The self evident I. Everything becomes evident to me, and that is because I am already evident to myself. Upon this premise is based the entire pages and pages and pages of manuscripts of the Vedanta Shastra. The knowledge of Vedanta relies on this. It is just so awesome, amazing. Upon this one fact that you are evident to you, thank God. So then why study the Upanishad? If I am evident to me, then why should I come to you in order to know something about myself? This seems backwards. This seems totally backwards. I want to have self knowledge. I want to know myself. Therefore, I go and listen to someone else. This is so strange. Why would I do that? Why would I listen to somebody else when what I need to know is not about them or what they think about me, but I need to know about myself? Why do I do that? Because there is some disconnect from this I, which is the self evident I. And then that I, which the Upanishads, which the primary texts of the Hindu Dharma unveil as the truth of the entire universe, that self-effulgent I, which is aware of everything, which in fact is awareness itself, that conscious being which is a being without any doing, which is consciousness itself. That consciousness is Ishvara, is that force, that consciousness equipped with the feminine power Maya, is the force of the entire universe, and that consciousness is you. This is how what we call the Mahavakya operates. Mahavakya means the statement of oneness between the Jiva and Ishvara. The Jiva, the alienated individual, and Ishvara, the whole. This is how it operates. And this is in keeping with the human yearning. Two things we have to understand. One is it is not known. It is not known, meaning it is not fully known. I know I am, but don't ask the next question, what are you? Because then all the pains and sorrows will come out. How much time do you have? I have these problems. I have those problems. I have this issue. I have that issue. I have so many things that I do not like. This is all, me, all the problems are me. Somewhere there is a sense of derailment. That I exist is not in question. What is in questions is in question, what are in question are the conclusions about the I that are taken to be absolute. That is what is in question. And correcting that by making one shed these notions to begin with. through statements that are what are called neti neti statements. Na iti, na iti. It is not what you think, it is not what you think, it is not what you think. So through these statements, the Upanishad first, the study of the Upanishad first makes you shed those assumptions. So many notions. And even here we'll see a big notion being shed right at the beginning of the Antaryami-Brahmana. And what is the notion? That women can know things and women can teach men. This is one notion that is going to be very interestingly shed right at the beginning. That women can have self-knowledge, that is going to be shed right at the outset. Very, very interesting. And such notions about oneself, about others, about the world, even about Ishvara, about other jivas, all this constitutes the burden of subjectivity that one carries. It's like, you know, it's like being under a rain cloud, a dull, gray, water laden, depressive rain cloud all the time. And that, imagine that rain cloud is right in front of the eyes, clouding one's vision of everything that one sees, everything that one touches, everything that one interacts with. And so, therefore, to know the I, we require a special means of knowledge, not counted here in the everyday means of knowledges, which are very good at objectifying things. But they are useless to us, because we are not talking of objects, we are talking of the content, the nature of the subject. Who is subject to depression? Who is subject to misunderstanding? Who is subject to sorrow? Who is subject to fear? That subject we are talking about. And that subject needs to be known by shedding what does not belong. And that means of knowledge is in the form of the instruction of this vidya, is in the form of instruction, oral, verbal instruction. It is in the form of words. That is why it is called Shabda Pramana. Shabda Pramana means words of the Upanishad. Oh, so I can read it. If it's words of the Upanishad, I can read it. And so I can read it, and I don't need to attend classes, I don't need lectures, I don't need discourses. Then why do I need to listen to somebody? Because these are the Shabda Pramana is not just words, that is part of the story. The Shabda Pramana is words handled by a teacher who was well taught by his teacher, who was well taught by her teacher, who was well taught by his teacher, her teacher, his teacher, her teacher, all the way up to Narayana, Ishvara, Sadashiva. Again, names of Bhagavan. So we trace these lineages from the teaching lineage, from various manifestations of Bhagavan, of Ishvara. That is what is very, very interesting and important to know here. So, why do I need a lineage? Why do I need a teacher? Why can't I read the Upanishad? Because the pramana is in the form of words that are handled. Words along with the pedagogy uh, to, to, uh, to offer that knowledge into the heart of the recipient is what makes it a Shabda Pramana. The book is not Pramana by itself. The book which is activated by the pedagogy inherited by one's teacher, who inherited it from their teacher and their teacher, so on. Those pedagogies which are dusted off, made relevant to the present day, and made engaging, that constitutes the transmission of this knowledge. That allows the knowledge to be taken, to be assimilated. And this is why the Shabda Pramana is connected to the teacher. And that the Shabda Pramana itself brings in the concept of teacher, brings in the concept of student. That is how the student teacher are born. The student is born as soon as one knows, I need help. Nothing that I do or try to understand is helping me. None of the means of knowledge are any good to me. The student is born, and the student searches for help, and the one who gives the help, not by saving the student. There's nothing to save, because one, in the words of the Upanishad, in the vision of the Upanishad, one is already okay, one is already perfect, one is already free, one is already whole, one is already limitless. In fact, one is the only thing that there is. So what is the problem here? So in the words of the Upanishad, there is no problem. And in the mind of the student, there is no solution. This is how the two come together. The student is convinced there is no solution, and the teacher is convinced, because the teacher has studied the Upanishad, the teacher is convinced there is no problem. There is no problem. So the problem is because the only problem is in the sense of wrong perception. So one is made to see things differently. Oh, that is not very encouraging. Why not? It's just like that fellow. Which fellow? The fellow who was afraid that the sky was falling on his head all the time, and he was running around like this all the time, afraid to come out of his house, afraid to do anything, afraid to enjoy life, because the sky was falling on his head. Oh no, oh no. And then what happened? Then a famous Vaidya, some kind of a doctor, comes to town, a touring Vaidya. And the Vaidya says, oh, I have treated many like him. Bring him to me. And so the young man is brought to the Vaidya with great difficulty, because he's so afraid of traveling and going to the doctor's office. Anyhow, with great difficulty, the relatives drag him and bring him to the Vaidya. The Vaidya teaches him stand, arm balance, and to walk upside down using using the arms. And equipped with this yogasana, he has no more fear that the sky is falling on his head, because what he sees above the head is the ground. No, not the sky at all. So is the Upanishad this kind of a gimmickry which is going to supposedly revolutionize my vision by just sort of inverting the script, flipping the script, so that so that it's so, and removing all sorrow, removing all my problems. This seems too good to be true. And when something is too good to be true, that must be true. It must be true that something is too good to be true. This is if one has these kinds of thoughts, one is not one is justified. In a way, one is justified to have this doubt, obviously, because one has been disappointed constantly in life. From understanding one's pursuit, one can see, okay, this must be the thing that will remove sorrow, this must be the thing that will remove confusion, this must be the thing that will take me closer to myself, this must be the thing gaining which I will be happy forever, which is what is ananta, limitlessness. This must be the thing that I want, this must be the thing that I seek, this must be the thing gaining which the seeking will stop forever. Like this, one is got, one is a permaculture of disappointment. Permaculture is some kind of a gardening term, for this, for sustainable agriculture and everything, agricultural methods. But here, this is a permanent culture. Therefore, I'm calling it a permaculture of disappointment. And each time there is disappointment, the doubt gets fed. Each time one is disappointed. One, the shoulders sag, the head comes down, and there is no pizzazz in the heart. There is no desire to trust anymore. One is becoming disenchanted, disengaged, disconnected, disillusioned, dysfunctional as a result. Everything, every word that starts with dis, you can use it here. And then this becomes one's everyday reality. And to be told, for such a person who is badgered by the universe, by other people in it, and by the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, to use the words of Hamlet, one is naturally distressed and disillusioned. And one more quick fix, like, oh, why don't you try this? To a chronic health sufferer, like somebody who has, unfortunately, who has arthritis or some other incurable disease. Most of the diseases these days are incurable, you just have to manage them. So, for such a chronic sufferer, one is told, oh, what you need, the answer to your woes is in this 3-ounce bottle. Yes, it's very expensive, but it's worth it, and you will see that the pain will vanish and your fingers will come back to the size they originally were. There will be no inflammation, you will be cured. Yeah, right. This is what the chronic sufferers will rightfully say. Because all trust has gone, they have tried every single thing. And then continued to be disappointed, continued to be disappointed. And so too, the jaded, faded, jagged, ragged jiva that is coming into this retreat, that is coming into to this teaching. And what is the feeling? The feeling is, yeah, been there, done that, attended the December retreat. What happened? Nothing. Attended the retreat before that. What happened? Nothing. Attending all the weekly classes. What is happening? Nothing. Attending all the monthly classes. Kya ho raha hai? Kuch nahi. Nothing is happening. And so this is this. So how can you say that this time it is going to be different? How can you say that? So this is a very very interesting, what's the crossroads that one is on. One is at a crossroads. How can this must be some kind of a quack. It's not a quick fix, it's a quack fix, like the fellow who was told to walk on his arms. Okay, you will no longer have this fear, but is this practical? Can this ever happen? Can I lose the sorrow? Can I lose the doubt? Can I lose the fear that constitutes my life? Above all, can I lose that subjectivity with which the whole world is painted? A dull gray color, monotone. So, can I lose this subjectivity? How can I give this up? What can I do? And what is this, and what is this Upanishad promising me that I did not get in other places? What is this particular text that we are going to study? How is it going to be different? Well, that is why the Antaryami-Brahmana is really, it should be, if it were to be titled in English, this subsection should be called the Great Connector. This body of knowledge is the great connector which connects everything that is disconnected. That is what the Antaryami is. It reveals these connections to a heart that is thirsty for oneness, a heart that has been pining for the breakdown of barriers within and outside of oneself, a heart that is yearning for connection, a heart that is wanting to be in place, a heart that is wanting to belong. In fact, that's the only longing, to belong. The heart that is wanting to be included, the heart that wants to matter, the heart that is disengaged because it has given up, because it cannot any longer sustain the hope that something will change. It cannot consciously sustain that hope, but Yet, subconsciously, that hope never dies, which is why such a heart decided to give this Upanishad another try. Let's see. Maybe this time it'll be different. Maybe this time there will be something that will something that will allow this heart to blossom, to spread its fragrance, to make its life worth living, in the sense of whatever it is supposed to contribute to make its life worthwhile. That interconnectedness is in behind the seeking of every object. You want to become one with what you seek. That is where the seeking is directed. That is the purpose of the seeking. You don't seek in order to say, yeah, 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 I got it, but I don't need it anymore. Not many people say that. You want to become one with the object. You want to become one with the person that is sought, a dear friend or a partner in life, whatever it might be. You want to be one with everything that you seek. And so, therefore, the onus, the motivation for seeking of any kind is a sense of disconnection that is brought on by the hopelessness, the sorrow, and the repeated disenchantment, disappointment that we talked about. All of them are the prasada, the gift, unfortunate gift of Atma Ajnanam, self ignorance. And so, therefore, what the Upanishad does, we need to know it's the flashlight that lights up the knowledge of the I as whole. The Upanishad does not reveal the I. The I being already self revealing, the Upanishad cannot and need not reveal the I. You don't need a text that says, you exist. You know what? You exist. You already know that. But what is it, the you that exists? What is the nature of this existence? And is this existence conscious? And is this conscious being who is existent, self existent, self revealing being? Is this being naturally free of pain and sorrow? If so, I am all ears. Yes. And that is why ears are needed, because this is how the knowledge is imbibed. But can't I read this Antaryami-Brahmana? Yes, we are going to read it together. Yes, you can read it. There is nothing wrong in reading it. But if you read it by yourself, then what happens is that one brings in the same infrastructure that one carries, that same gray cloud which even refuses to rain. It is just in that place of holding all the water, and it's in that holding pattern, the status quo. And one brings the layer of subjectivity, which sinks the ship before it has set sail. It's to read the Upanishad, therefore, is a form of self sabotage. Even before you begin, it is doomed to, it's a setup for failure. Why? Because you bring in that same infrastructure of hopelessness and defeat. Tattvamasi, you are that. And what is that? That is the cause of the universe, Ishvara. Yeah, right. You turn the page. Aham Brahmasmi, you are that which is limitlessly big. Brahman being limitlessly big, you are Ishvara. Yeah, yeah, right. How can this be true? No, next. And that's why people come and say, I have studied the Kathopanishad, nothing happened. I have studied the Mundakopanishad, nothing happened. I have read this Upanishad, I have read that Upanishad, I have read this, that, I have read. And then nothing happened. And that's because this is not a matter for reading. Reading is, that's why I said the body called the Upanishad is not a pramana until and unless it is activated in the form of words by the teacher who handles the pramana. A handled pramana is what is needed here. And so therefore, whether you like it or not. The teacher comes along. Just like if you go to a new city, a new place, and then you want to see what all is there, you don't have a lot of time. So then you engage, you do a little tour, you have a city tour, the whole bus tour which goes around the city. And you are a kind of a, adventurous type, but then because of lack of time you have sat in the bus, but you would like to find out what those things are that you are seeing by yourself. You don't want a narrator, but the tour comes along with a tour guide thrown in. You can't just, you have to have that. And that's how you will, in a short period of 2 hours or 1 hour, whatever you have at hand, before it's time for you to leave, you can see the maximum amount. So here too, in this journey of self discovery, the teacher the teacher has to come along. The teacher doesn't try to save you. Thank God, there is nothing to be saved. The teacher points out the need to not to be saved. That is a wonderful thing. And the teacher does not point out faults. The teacher says you are flawless, you are infallible, you are the limitless, that limitless being which you strive to be. You are not sad, you are not disconnected, you are not subject to fear. And in fact, these are very, very wonderful things to hear if one brings a pair of ears. Oh, so that is the prerequisite. Yeah, the prerequisite is a pair of clean ears from which all the buildup of pain, fear, sorrow has been removed. Why? So that whatever is heard is assimilated, retained. From the ear, it goes and sits in the heart, this knowledge. That is what this is all about. And therefore, this Brahmana is very beautiful. It's a section, as I said, it should be called the Great Connector. That which connects everything. All these discrete things that we did not even know are connected, are very much connected by that who is the indwelling the all the bodies, not just this body, not just your body, not just my bodies, but all bodies in the universe. Oh, so that means people? Yes. That means animals? Yes. That means all the creepy crawlies that I don't like? Yes. That same being is indwelling everything. Oh, but then what about the inanimate things in the Jagat? Like what? Like plants. The plants are not inanimate, like rocks. Yes, that's why the rocks also. It's the that same Ishvara indwells the rock, indwells the human being, indwells fire, water, air, forests, birds of prey, animals, carnivorous animals, and the who are predators, and also the animals who are prey, the same indweller of all. And that truth of that indweller, who is this indweller? A conscious being, a never ending conscious being, the source of all existence. And how that can be and how that is going to be, we will see in the morning class tomorrow. I will end here. This we have talked a lot, and then if there are any questions, you can ask after the closing prayer. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.